Hello, good afternoon everybody. I am delighted to be going live this afternoon on this very hot summer's day in England with the fabulous Zita West and also nutritionist Rebecca, whose handle is Healthy Gut Kitchen. So they'll be joining in a second. Zita West has written the most fabulous article for us, which is all about understanding your vaginal microbiome and what you can do to support that when you're trying to conceive, and also the importance of that whilst you're trying to conceive. So we're going to have a conversation around everything that you need to know. Have your questions ready. They are happy to answer all of them, and we have some lovely discount codes for you too. So the link is in the bio to read the article that Zita West has written for us, and I'm going to invite them in. So I can see Rebecca's here, and then we will add in Zita. Hi everyone joining, nice to see you. Welcome. Here's Zita as well.
Hi.
Hello, hi Rebecca, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Hi Zita, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My iPad isn't working, so I'm on my phone. So
well, you look great, and we can see you fine.
Okay,
Fantastic. How are you both doing in the heat?
Well, I'm in France, and it's 36 degrees.
Yeah.
So my makeup is just all pouring off me at the moment.
Same as me. Yeah. I've given a brief introduction to what we're discussing today, but first of all, please could you both introduce yourselves, and then we can talk about vaginal microbiome.
I'm Zita West. I am a midwife. I specialise in fertility. I've written lots of books, and I have a range of products, Zita West products.
Fabulous, thank you. And Rebecca?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Rebecca Traylon. I'm Associate Nutritionist, and I specialise in gut health, and really with a keen interest around looking after your gut microbiome around fertility, pregnancy, and then into infancy as well.
Perfect, thank you. And it's such a great topic because we've got so many followers who are really interested in the holistic approach and understanding what they can do to improve chances of conception and understand more about their health, general health, I guess. So first question, and I mentioned just before that Zita has written a brilliant article for us, which is on our website. So if you click the link in bio after this, please do go and have a read because it covers everything and more that we've discussed today. And there's a lovely discount for her whole supplements range there too. So take advantage of that. First question, could we just start by explaining, please, what is vaginal microbiome?
Well, shall I start, Rebecca? Then I'll go on to you as the probiotic expert. It's quite interesting. Lots of women know about the gut microbiome. It's becoming increasingly more and more talked about. Less is known about the vaginal microbiome, but there is a deluge now of studies and research to show how important the vaginal microbiome is in fertility, in pregnancy, miscarriage, and IVF success. So what it is the vagina is full of microbes, and these microbes need to be in balance in order for your vaginal health. So maybe Rebecca can say something now about the environment of the vagina.
Yeah, no, of course. And yeah, no, great introduction. And so when we're thinking about this environment, our vaginal microbiome, it's very actually different to our gut microbiome. So when we're talking about gut health, we really want this diverse gut microbiome. We want lots of different bacterial species in there. But actually our vaginal microbiome is very different. It is dominated by a species of bacteria called lactobacillus. And lactobacillus produce lactic acid, which means that it keeps the environment of your vaginal microbiome very acidic. And this is what we need to deter any pathogens, so reduce our risk of things like BV or UTIs as well, when actually you get a colonization of pathogens. So really what we see is about 90% of the vaginal microbiome is dominated in this lactobacillus bacteria.
And is it something that is good or bad dependent on your diet? Is that the main cause of whether you have good or bad vaginal microbiome?
Yes, so your
part of the reason. Sorry, Rebecca, you answer that.
No. So I was just going to say, yes. So it's definitely part diet will play a big factor, and it's always going to be influenced as well by your gut health as well, which can be influenced by diet. But actually our vaginal microbiome is really determined by a whole host of factors. So things like our age, our ethnicity, where we are in the menstrual cycle, diet, like you mentioned, so thinking about kind of these high fat, high sugar foods play a role, lifestyle as well, so smoking, alcohol, stress, also as well our hygiene practices as well, and our sexual habits. So really there's a whole host of factors that are affecting the balance in our vaginal microbiome.
But we do now know, Eloise, that certain factors definitely, you know, in terms of having a good vaginal microbiome with the right amount of lactobacillus can increase your chances of IVF working. It can, studies have been done on premature births, and again, a whole host of organisms that are more prevalent if you don't have the right vaginal microbiome. So things like mycoplasma, ureaplasma, recurrent urinary tract infections. I can't tell you the amount of women I've seen over the years that are on antibiotics for a whole year because every time they have sex, they get cystitis. So it's great to sort of be able to now understand this and be able to use, probiotics to help.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of relating this to fertility, is it because it's helping you make a sort of more welcoming and healthier environment for an embryo to implant? Is that the thought behind it?
Yeah, I mean, the endometrium now, there's lots of tests that can be done from sampling of the endometrium to see what the environment of the endometrium, the microbiome of the endometrium. So increasingly, yes, is the answer, that the more you know about it, the more you're able to increase friendly bacteria, the better the outcome is likely to be. And Rebecca, you're a lot more au fait with the studies than I am, but certainly there is a lot of research now, isn't there, in terms of the outcome when it comes to the vaginal microbiome?
Yeah, and the studies are so fascinating, and so we have an endometrium environment as well, a microbiome, and it's very similar to our vaginal microbiome, so dominated by this species of lactobacillus. And really, the research in the last couple of years is quite incredible, looking at again this dominance of lactobacillus, and actually women who have less than 90% dominance of this lactobacillus have a lower success rate for things like IVF, have a reduced risk of pregnancy complications and miscarriage as well, because like you were saying, it's all about getting that environment right. And when we do have an imbalance in our gut microbiome, it leads to inflammation. Things like TNF alpha, our cytokines, they all increase, which again are going to have a direct impact on fertility and fertility success as well. So there has been, yes, some really interesting studies there looking at a direct link between this microbiome and fertility.
And is this quite recent research? Is this something that has come to light in recent years? Has this always been something that people should be conscious of?
Well, I find it quite interesting because I've been doing this work for a long time. And as you know, I've got very much a holistic approach to fertility, not just in the fallopian tubes, but everything, every aspect of your mind, your body, etc., are important. And it's always been really difficult with the medical profession to talk about. I've always believed there's a link between the gut and fertility, and now the research is showing that that there is. So it's great, like the studies that have been done now on the vaginal microbiome are sort of coming into the forefront. But I don't want anybody listening to this to think you're just going to take lactobacillus and you'll get pregnant, because getting pregnant is multifaceted. Lots of underlying reasons why you might not conceive, age being one of them, male factor, there's a lot. So, but it's almost a bit like, Rebecca, isn't it? It's like a self-help tool, something you can take that is going to be.
I know someone has just asked about diet, so I'm going to ask you about that in a second. But before we talk about diet, please could you just explain how somebody can check their sort of microbiome health in the first instance?
There are tests that can be done. I'll let Rebecca talk about them. The difficult about any of these tests is they need to be interpreted. So you know, you need to find a practitioner that can do the test for you and interpret that result, because it's not just looking at the lactobacillus, it's looking at finding other pathogens such as mycoplasma, plasma, urea plasma, candida, etc. So you do need guidance and help. Other tests that are done within IVF clinics are sampling the endometrium. So a doctor will be able to sort of advise in terms of what you need to do with that. Anything you want to add there, Rebecca?
Yeah, I would also say that it's amazing we have all of these tests, which is great. I mean, we have so much knowledge now of kind of what's going on in our body and what it's kind of telling us. But I always say to people, just take a step back and look at how are you feeling? Are you someone that suffers from kind of chronic UTIs? Is it something you're always struggling with? Thrush? How is your gut health in general? So how is your digestive system? How is your maybe acne is also an indicator? How fatigued are you? Do you have lots of energy when you wake up? And these kind of factors, just being really aware of what's going on in your body, because I think it's so easy, and I think everyone is guilty of it. I mean, I'd be guilty of it as well. Just kind of trotting on with life, kind of not feeling 100%, but just not really sure what to do or kind of where to start. But I think our body and how we're feeling can tell us so much. And I think being aware of that can actually be really powerful. And I mean, yeah, there are great tests at the moment looking at the endometrium microbiota, looking at certain bacteria that are in there. But just looking at yourself and feeling, how are you doing and what are you feeling like?
So, you know, again, just to add to that, Rebecca, and you're absolutely right. So if you're getting repeated candida or thrush, if you get repeated urinary tract infections, if you have got any inflammatory underlying issues going on, that might all lead to a suggestion that this, you know, that there is something going on with the vaginal microbiome.
Yeah. And Zita, you've got supplements to support this, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, I'm going to let Rebecca talk about the supplements because, you know, she's going to talk about the lactobacillus. But what I will say as well is, you know, vaginal health is at the forefront now. Everybody is sort of like talking about it. But there's lots, I think it's important as well to talk about what can affect your vaginal health in terms of how you're living your life. And Rebecca touched on a few things, but certainly there is, you know, there's antibiotics. If you're on antibiotics long term, I think that you've got to not douche. Some women do douche, but if you are douching, you are going to upset the natural environment of the vagina. I think you need to look at things like sex and also, you know, if you are using sex toys or anything like that, making sure they're washed absolutely properly. All of these things, you know, can help protect the environment within the vagina. Have you got any more to add there, Rebecca?
No, I think, yeah, that was a really good cover of a lot of things. And like, again, just always going back to diet and lifestyle. I mean, even stress is a factor that is going to impact the vaginal microbiome. And especially thinking about fertility, it can be a really stressful time for both women and men. And just doing, it's so hard because there's so much that said people go do this, do this, do this. And it is so overwhelming. But it is just trying to have, like Zita says, a holistic view, looking at kind of all aspects, but also being aware that it's not going to be perfect all the time. So everyone's like, have this balanced diet, but I know Zita always thinks there's no such thing as a balanced diet. Everyone's always going to have a little treat every now and then. It's not going to be that kind of perfect plate for every meal, and that's fine. But it's just doing everything you can from all of these different areas to really just give you the best support possible.
What about the products you use down there? Are there some
that's important as well. I was talking about douching, but, you know, perfume, soaps, all of that can have an impact.
Okay. And so going on to sort of supplementation and diet, how can people improve their vaginal microbiome?
Yeah, of course. So from the diet point of view, really when we're thinking actually about a vaginal microbiome and our gut microbiome, it's very similar advice that I would give. So diet-wise, the first thing I always say to people is eating a range of plant-based foods. So I like to give people a bit of a challenge to have a look at their diet across just a normal week and count the number of plant-based foods that you're eating. So this is things like fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grain carbohydrates, beans and pulses. And actually what the research suggests is we need 30 different types of these plant-based foods per week. And that is a general indicator of good gut health. So it's again going to impact the vaginal microbiome. And I think a lot of people, and it's so easy to get into a habit, but you kind of pick, when you go shopping, you'll pick exactly the same things each week. You'll have a routine of, I know on kind of Monday I have pasta, Tuesday I have a spag bowl or whatever it is. And even if those meals in themselves are well balanced and healthy, if we're having them again and again, we are going to be limiting the kind of goodness that our gut bacteria can get from it. So that's always my first challenge for people. So getting in that diversity of plant-based foods. And then you're going to be getting in your fiber as well, which is really important to feed our friendly bacteria. And then fermented foods, something I will always go on about is our fermented foods. So these are foods that have been fermented, so kind of digested by bacteria. So this is things like kefir, live yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, and these all have live beneficial bacteria in. And again, the studies show that these are really good at supporting our gut health, both because they contain beneficial bacteria, but also the compounds they produce when they ferment these foods are also going to have a positive impact on our gut health. So those are kind of always my starting points when I'm thinking about diet and gut health, is our plant-based foods and fermented foods as well.
Great, thank you. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that's covered well. I mean, you know, I know about plant-based foods being important, and I know I joke with Rebecca that to fit 30 of these in a week, it's a hell of a lot, you know, an awful lot. And I would go for the sort of quick fix with the sauerkraut or whatever. But no, I've nothing else to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Perfect.
If they're coming through.
Yeah, let's do that. I just wanted to mention, because we have so many readers who love your range and want to find out more. And so we do have a code, which is FHH10, which you can use at checkout to get 10% off. So please take advantage of that. Should we go back to some of the questions there?
Yes, yeah.
I think, sorry, I'm just going back. I think the first one was about diet, wasn't it? Which I know that, Rebecca, you've just sort of answered. Sorry, just trying to find them. And then there was one about natural killer cells.
We're actually, Eloise, as well, doing, we're doing a webinar, aren't we, on this, Rebecca? September time, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, September. So yeah, all about the vaginal microbiome and
amazing.
A bit on probiotics and kind of how they can be used as well.
And we've got one of the doctors on that's going to talk about this as well.
Everyone should follow both accounts to be in the loop about when that's happening and to be able to sign up. There's the question: can poor microbiome lead to high natural killer cells if there has been an infection, for example?
Yes, so definitely there is such a link between our gut microbiome and things like immunity, because 70% of our immune cells are found in our gut microbiome, and the research has shown that actually these are interacting. Our immune cells and our gut bacteria are always kind of talking to each other and always assisting and helping. So definitely there's a lot of research that they are interlinking. So yeah, when you do have an infection, anything you can do to support that gut microbiome is going to be really helpful. And if you are taking some sort of medication as well, that can also impact your gut microbiome. So making sure you give extra support there as well.
Mm-hmm. And what about HPV? Can that affect your microbiome?
Yes, so really, so Zita, do you want to answer?
No, you go on.
Yeah, so really kind of any sort of virus, any sort of pathogenic bacteria, can again affect our gut microbiome. So there are lots of tests you can do now, like we mentioned beforehand. There are some gut microbiome tests as well, and thinking about has it been affected. To be honest, the gut bacteria test is not something at the moment I recommend to people. I would always say go back and just actually have a look at how you're feeling, things like unexplained bloating or gas, diarrhea, constipation, fatigue, all of these factors as well. And actually then it gives a really good indication of is it being affected and how kind of almost severely.
Okay. I'm always amazed when I see clients how from a questionnaire how often they talk about, when I do the digestive profile, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, diarrhea, etc. And the gut microbiome now is linked to your emotional state, isn't it? There's so much more we're understanding about all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people who are at varying stages of their fertility journey, whether they're just starting out, whether they're just interested in their well-being and for fertile health, or whether they're sort of down the road into fertility treatment, I presume it's never too late to get this checked out and start to improve it.
No, I don't think it is. And like we were saying about getting checked out, you've got to, what's hard about this is finding someone that's doing the test. They are becoming more readily available, and getting them interpreted properly, because like I'm sort of stressing, it's not just about the lactobacillus. It can look at other factors that need treating in a different way as well.
And would your cervical mucus show you whether there might be something going on with your microbiome?
I think, not so much your cervical mucus or secretions, but if you've got discharge, a smelly discharge, there's definitely something going on. So, I think that you've got to do the best that you can. And so what I'm encouraging women to do that are trying for a baby, going through IVF and in pregnancy, is to additionally take a probiotic that is suitable for what stage you're at, because different microbiome have different strains of friendly bacteria. So the gut would be different from the vagina. So I would focus more on vaginal health when you're trying for a baby.
And if people
agree with that, Rebecca?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think especially probiotics, I think it's amazing the availability of them nowadays. If you go into sort of a health shop or have a little Google, there are so many options, which absolutely amazing, can be very overwhelming. And I think it's really easy to just kind of pick one off the shelf, maybe the one that's most affordable, or you like the packaging or something. I mean, I feel like we're all a bit guilty of just pretty nice, pretty packaging, we'll get that one. But as I said at the beginning, it's a completely different environment. If you also think it's got to make sure it's been tested to travel all the way down to your vaginal microbiome as well. So you are looking for a probiotic that is specific to fertility. And then if you are carrying on that probiotic throughout pregnancy, that's going to be a different probiotic again, because your bacteria change again. So it really is specific, and looking at your specific stage. And even if you're watching this and thinking, oh gosh, maybe I need one for my IBS or something, again, that's going to be completely different. One of the actually amazing things about probiotics and all this amazing research is we can target them really really niche targets for them. So it is making sure that you are getting that right one.
Okay,
keep it simple. Don't complicate it. Just work with where you are, in your journey.
And Zita, because you have supplements which are for this purpose, where can people find that on your website? What's the name?
It's FemSeed, and also Menseed, because there is a male microbiome as well, which is very, very interesting.
So please head to our link in bio, go to Zita West's website and purchase FemSeed, Menseed, whichever you want to try, and use code FHH10 if you would like a discount. As Rebecca said, it's worth going for a quality supplement that has come from, that's backed by science, and that is obviously a trustworthy source. So thank you for sharing that with us. The other thing that I was going to ask, and we've sort of touched on that before, well, actually, why don't we hop back to the questions? And then I was just going to ask about different points in your cycle. Do different things happen with your microbiome at different points in the menstrual cycle?
Rebecca can answer that one, because we've been talking about it, haven't we?
Yes, we talked about this earlier. So yes, your microbiome does change depending on where you are in your cycle. And actually, when there is an increase in estrogen, it actually stimulates glucogen uptake in your vaginal microbiome, which is a food source or kind of energy for the lactobacillus. So you do see an increase in lactobacillus during your cycle. And actually, going a little bit further as well, there is a change when we're looking at women like fertile and infertile women. There is actually a difference in how their vaginal microbiome changes during their menstrual cycle as well. So really, really fascinating stuff. And I mean, like we were saying, this is there's so much we know now, but this is all really new and emerging research. There's now a little bit of research, but not huge amounts on how this will change with a contraceptive as well. But no, it does change as well during your cycle.
Yeah. I'm just adding here what we just said about FemSieve and MenSieve for anyone who wants to check it out in the link in our bio. So if we hop back to the questions now, just need to find them. Please bear with me. Someone has asked, said that they've suffered for years with reoccurring thrush and UTIs. Stuck in the cycle, their doctor isn't able to help or resolve the issues. Do you have any recommendations for someone that's struggling with thrush or UTIs?
Rebecca, do you want to answer that one with the lactobacillus?
Yeah, of course. So I do see that actually taking a probiotic specifically for the vaginal microbiome can be very effective at helping reduce the kind of incidence of things like UTIs and thrush. So actually there is a few different ones on the market. If you are looking for kind of a fertility one that will also help, that FemSieve is actually a really good place to start. But I know there are also other probiotics out there looking just at kind of UTI and thrush as well.
It's fairly miserable to go through that, isn't it? Constantly.
It's really, I know, I think it's so awful there, and it's one of these things that sometimes you can get stuck in a bit of a loop as well if you're taking antibiotics kind of constantly, which is going to affect our gut health. So completely understanding it must be so tricky, but I think also making sure that all of these factors that we spoke about, our diet, lifestyle, things like stress, I mean, I'm sure you have taken a look at them, but always worth just going back and make sure you're doing everything you can. So then if you do take a probiotic, support that.
And thank you for that. Someone's asked, how can uroplasma, is that how you say it, affect fertility?
Well, again, it's an underlying infection that you have that you don't know. And there's been lots of research on ureaplasma and mycoplasma and its role for in fertility. I don't know whether you want to add anything, Rebecca, there.
No, I think that was, yeah.
Thank you. If you have a good vaginal microbiome, someone has asked, and it's actually been tested, so you know that from a test, however that's interpreted, might your uterus have a different microbiome?
The uterus has, the microbiome of the uterus is the same as the vagina.
Okay.
So it's reliant on lactobacillus as well. And, the whole of the reproductive tract has a microbiome, not just the vagina, but the uterus, the ovaries, the fallopian tubes. So it's, it is really, really interesting, this work. But one thing I wanted to say about the ureaplasma is if, I don't know whether you agree with me, Rebecca, but if the vagina is balanced and got a lot of lactobacillus in it, you're less likely to be prone to these infections if you've got a good amount of lactobacillus. It's when it's very low that the issues occur with underlying infections.
Yeah. This is really fascinating because when I was going through treatment 6 years ago, I had never even heard of this. So if it was something that I was doing now, I would definitely be very intrigued to have it looked at and just understand more about it. As I mentioned before, Zita has written a fantastic article which explains all about this, everything we've covered today and more, in that you can read and take away what you need. So head to our link in bio for that, and do try FemSieve, MenSieve, FHH10. The link is also in the bio. Thank you both so much for your expertise today. Is there anything else you think that people should consider, or questions they should ask if they're considering getting this checked out?
I think what Rebecca said earlier is just to look at yourself and what are you suffering from? What do you suffer from? What's your diet like? What is your medical history? Have you had past IVF failures? Have you had premature births or miscarriage? And and go from there. This is just something additional that you have control over.
Mm-hmm. Just very quickly, sorry, just thinking. Okay. We've mentioned MenSieve. What should men be looking at?
Rebecca, do you want to talk about the male microbiome?
Yeah, and again, it's very, so our male microbiome is slightly different. It's not as dominated by this lactobacillus. They still play a really important role, but we do see a lot more diversity there. But again, it's coming from our gut bacteria. So it's all of the same things, looking at our diet, looking at our lifestyle, things like alcohol and smoking. It's going to be affected by age and ethnicity. So it's all of these same things, looking at digestive symptoms, so bloating, diarrhea, constipation, looking at our energy levels, looking at our skin. All of these things, again, is going to be really important.
So those things that could affect sperm?
Yeah, all things that can affect sperm. And I mean, you can as well get tested as well for your kind of sperm quality. So that's also something else you can look at.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both very, very much. That's been very enlightening, and I hope everyone else has found it as interesting as I have. So thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks, Eloise. Thanks, Rebecca.
The heat dies down a bit. I'm just absolutely sweltering here. Anyway, lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.